side of the net. Schremp. He scores! Robbie Schremp! And it's 2-0. A roof shot from a bad angle.
The 1-2 box is Schremp with a shot. Scores! Power play goal for Robbie Schremp.
Fires one towards the goal. That's going to be gloved by Travis Ridgen. Well, this is more like it.
This is Slangin' the Biscuit. Here's Travis Ridgen and Dave Wheeler.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sling the Biscuit as a part of our summer, now fall interview series. Today's guest is the pride of upstate New York. Over 100 NHL games played, half a point per game, just shy of 400 points in 200 O-Show Ontario Hockey League's games. This guy is 5 foot, 11 inches, 2 separate measurements, presently residing in Strath Vegas, Ontario, home of the Strathroy Rockets Junior B hockey team. Welcome to the show, Mr. Rob Schremp.
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me on.
It's good to have you, man. It's really good to have you. I'm curious, as an upstate New York, was it that big of a swing to now be living in Canada full time? Was your time in London really kind of sell you on Canada?
I kind of grew up here. You know, even through youth hockey days, we were up in Canada every weekend, and then I played Tier 2 Junior A, same thing in Syracuse. We were out of Syracuse, but played in the Ontario Provincial League. So, and then my time in the OHL, I love Canada. I've always loved the people up here. And, you know, it's basically hockey is religion up here, which is, you know, hockey's in my blood as it is your guys's. And that being said, I got a business development job in the biotech agricultural space, and we go after golf courses and farms, and London is filled with both. And just from my time with the Knights, I know a lot of the farm owners, and I know a lot of the golf course owners. So it was a natural fit. And I did enjoy this. Probably would have been the best time I had in my career. It was in London.
Is it too early to ask you what your handicap is and how many rounds you've gotten in this year?
No, it's good. I'm I don't know if I want to say because then I can't sandbag, but no, I'm a 1 handicap.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I got a ton. My wife and daughter went back to Latvia, where my wife is from, for the summer, and I was unfortunately stuck here for the whole summer by myself. But that being said, there was the other than missing them, which I did every single day, I got to play about 40 rounds over the summer.
Good for you. Well done.
I had a 154 whole day.
Wow. Did you play in one of those? I saw a few on social media, one of these marathon rounds where you go out and it's almost kind of like a resort package where you go out and play 3 different courses in one day?
No, it was the same course 3 times.
Well done. Well
done.
done.
The Oaks. It was on the Oaks Golf and Country Club here in London.
Amazing. Now, you mentioned your wife's from Latvia. I'm assuming that was when your time was over playing overseas?
Yeah, playing for Dinamo Riga. So my short stint there didn't last very long there, but I did pick up a lifelong souvenir. Now we have a great family and a beautiful daughter.
I want to touch on your time overseas a little bit later on in this episode, but I'm curious to know, for a guy that was so highly touted coming out of London and coming out of the Ontario Hockey League and in the draft, what was your mindset getting into the league and then seeing kind of the ups and downs and not getting the right call-ups? And I think everyone felt that you didn't get the right call-ups at the right times with all of those teams.
Yeah, it was wild. You know, the ebbs and flows of it. And, you know, even in the beginning in London when I got traded here in my draft year, it was a rough little patch in the beginning and a bumpy ride, so to speak, in the first year. The second year was amazing, and third year even better as far as individually. It was a weird ride, you know, because the last year in London, I had a very successful season individually. And then the next year, like fast forward 6 months later, I'm getting healthy scratched in the minors. So it was a bit of a lot of first and a lot of new, and how to take that stuff. It was tough too, because to your point, there was a lot of call ups and wasn't getting them. I only got 1 game my first year pro. So it was a little bit, very confusing and yeah, didn't know how to take that really.
Who did you have to help you navigate through that?
Nobody really, to be honest with you. So it's kind of, just trying to deal with it on your own and figure it out. And that's about it. So it's a tough ride.
I really want to ask about the Oilers because when I see the highlight reel tapes you, Shrimpy, back in the day, all the skill, all the style, that the bucket, just like all the style you had back in the day, I'm thinking like this guy was like made to be an Edmonton Oiler. And you get drafted in 2004. They go through what seems like it really has never ended, the shitstorm minus having McDavid and Draisaitl. With how bad the teams were in the late 2000s, early 2010s, I'm curious, like, why wouldn't they give you that opportunity when you were so successful? And you mentioned getting comfortable finally in Long Island. you were like 0.6, 0.7 points per game. Like, you got comfortable. There's your sample size, but they never gave it to you.
It was like oil and water, to be honest with you. From day one, it didn't feel good. Did some couple things on my own that didn't help my cause. I remember I had a big episode when my 19-year-old year, just at the end of camp, someone called me, told me they were going to cut me, and it just like melted me. And I had just not a good moment for me. Like, so that with the guys, it kind of made a little bit, but it wasn't anything crazy. That being said, also, like, it just didn't fit. Like, I never felt supported, like, at all. And then the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, 7 games in 3 years as a first rounder. Like, I don't have to sit here and tell a poor me story, but like, also I'm not going to sit here like an angel. Like, again, I probably could have been more mature and did some things differently. But that being said, it didn't, I didn't have a crazy story doing something stupid to not be able to give it an opportunity. But anyways, it just went that it wasn't going to work. And at the end, like, I was excited because it changed management and it changed coaching. And then it's Pat Burns and Tom Rennie. Like, I thought there was going to be light at the end of the tunnel there. And it just, they had a different game plan going on, but they were awesome. Like, they liked me and they were like, listen, we're going to give you a different, a fresh start. I think that's what you need. Pat Quinn I was excited because he reminded me a lot of my grandpa, like just the way he carried himself, the way he talked and the way he treated people. I was kind of stoked for that opportunity. It just didn't work out, but yeah, but I didn't feel good there at all. Didn't feel supported. For me, I kind of need that. I need to feel like I'm believed in and, people are on my side, so to speak. For me, it felt like I was fighting upstream the whole way. And, a couple times here and there, I didn't do anything to help myself.
Would that be more like a personal thing, like you not feeling supported, or do you think it was them in general weren't supporting guys?
It's tough. It's like open forum here, but like, for instance, I got called up in my last year and did well, like had 3 points in 4 games. And I played first star down in LA. And then, I got sent back. I knew that I was getting sent down though. There was a block of time. That was the first time it was pretty good communication. It was like, hey, you're here for 2 weeks until so-and-so gets back. So after 2 weeks, I got sent down. Then I got sent down, and the next week someone else got injured and I didn't get called back up. And the media asked a question about why it wasn't me. And there was just an unbelievable response that like threw me under the bus. Like, I wasn't even there. I didn't ask the question. It wasn't like, I got a kid now and they ask a million times. It's not like I asked, why not me? Why not me? Like, what it's like. You're a parent, like, sometimes you really just shut up. But for this instance, like, I wasn't the one to ask, but I got thrown under the bus with the answer that was replied. And that was really an indicator of like, okay, like, it's never going to happen here.
I mean, one example that comes to my mind, like, I think you played with Devin Dubnyk in Springfield, right?
Yep.
Like, Doobie was one of my favorite goalies growing up. But it looked like he was blossoming in Edmonton, and then they just threw him to the Wolves, ran him out of town, ran him out of the league, and then finally gets a fresh start, meets Sean Burke in Phoenix, and I guess it would have been Arizona at the time, reinvents his game, Vezina Trophy winner. And then how many other star players have they had where they've gone on to be incredibly successful outside of the dumpster fire? And I can't help but, from an outsider consumer, look at what was you at the time and why they're not giving you an opportunity with how many other guys didn't get an opportunity and like how successful you could have been in, I guess, the dumpster fire team that they were running at the time. Yeah,
it was wild. I mean, it was wild. Like, what it could have, should have. And, for me, it's super important what your start is and how you start and what kind of traction you can get under your feet with a good start. And a lot of us didn't get a good start. It's just uncertainty and don't know what's going on. And, I don't know what to call it, but like, it didn't make sense what players were getting called up. It's not for you to say. You just shut your mouth and play. But again, when you have 3 points in 4 games, and then the next week a first liner goes down in the show, and they call up a fourth liner from the minors, you just like, you want to pound your head off a wall. You're like, well, it makes no sense. A lot of that. I think a lot of us had the same. So I'm not special in that degree, but it was frustrating at times for sure. Like, just everybody's uncertain. Nobody's kind of getting what they want, and you sort of lose hope.
Yeah, it's amazing how things have changed now, where we see a lot more support of these guys coming up and, almost having it explained more. And guys like you who are, certainly stepping up and talking to the youth a lot more too, saying, hey, it may not all be sunshine and rainbows when you first get in. So I'll apologize on behalf of our generation for giving you that treatment. But was there a moment when you finally decided, okay, I'm going to go overseas, and finding the success that you did over there, did it kind of give you the validation of, okay, I do know what I'm doing. It wasn't me. It was just the way the situation was, because you really did do well overseas.
Yeah, the time in North America and in pro in North America, it was never certain. I never got to be on solid ground. I got it for a minute in Long Island, then it got taken away pretty quick. So I never got to be on solid ground and feel comfortable. And for me, once I get comfortable and in my setting and can be myself, I can have success and show my best colors. So, it went short. At the end, Atlanta sold the team to Winnipeg or whatever. The team moved to Winnipeg. And the first thing was, they wanted me on a 2-way contract. And I knew that meant I was probably going to be going to the minors and have to climb that ladder again. That's when I went to Europe. I figured I'd go to Europe and just have a good season and try to come back. And then, I did that. I went over to Modo and I played for Elf Samuelson as the head coach, and Marcus Naslin and Peter Forsberg were the GM and assistant general managers. So, we were in good hands there. Had a really good season. They were very happy with me. And then the lockout kind of smoked any chances of me coming back out. So, that's kind of the short of it. But
yeah, and listen, I was happy to hear that you weren't avoiding Winnipeg, because there were some people saying, he's avoiding Winnipeg. He didn't want to come play in Winnipeg.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a choice. I got punted out.
Yeah. Well, we would have been happy to have you in a Jets jersey. I can tell you that.
Oh, it would have been sick, buddy. That was the one thing being in Atlanta. There was just no atmosphere. Playing in London, there's a lot of great players that came through and a lot of great players that I played with. I was a fan favorite here because I could put a show on and help win. So I was excited to come to Winnipeg. But the thing, Dudley brought me to Atlanta. That's when I first heard that they were moving the team, which I hadn't heard anything before. I'd only been there 3 months, and obviously I'm a pigeon. Nobody's telling me the inside scoop. I was just oh, perfect. I'm going to be in Atlanta. Duds is here. I'm set. And then the first I heard about it was in June. Andrew Ladd put out a group text. It was hey boys, get your parkas ready. We're going to Winnipeg. And I was what the and then I was what? Wait, what? And then I started doing math and I'm wait a minute, that's not good. Next thing you know, 3 days later, they fired the whole staff. And I'm oh, there goes Dudley. And sure as shit, Kevin Cheveldayoff's first call to my agent was hey, can we don't want to get Rob on a 2-way, and you be around long enough, you do fucking math, that means you're going right to the minors. So that was my story there, and that's why I was okay, I guess I'll go to Europe. But yeah. I would have loved to gone to Winnipeg, man. I would have lit that building up.
Literally reminds me out of that scene out of Slapshot where they're sitting in the diner. We're getting sold. We're getting sold.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Shrimpy just undressing the D man? Steve Mason still looking for his jockstrap on Long Island.
Stop. That would have been great.
And the crowd at it was MTS Center, then Bell MTS Place in Canada Life, and just erupts.
You the white out, man. You would have loved
Shrimpy,
it.
I don't mean to tease you with a good time, but
no, buddy, I would have rocked him in white wheels too. White grass would have been, with those jerseys would have been mint.
Sergei Fedorov style. Oh man, that would have been awesome.
Buddy. Europe was interesting, and it was, it was a lot of fun to play there and see that different style of game. Now, now that I'm retired and in this setting of mentor and giving back to the game, it gave me a really good perspective of hockey in general, not just a North American NHL guy, which, obviously I would have loved to have that, had to have a 12, 15-year career, but I didn't. That being said, the silver lining is that because I can give advice in different manners. For instance, my good friend Jörg Terrell is the head coach of Team France for the Olympics, and he coaches in Geneva in the Swiss League, and he's got me on as a consultant for those guys. So it gives me the ability to have that experience and give some knowledge back. Again, not just knowing only the game over here, but knowing it on both sides of the pond in numerous leagues.
Outside of Latvia and obviously finding your wife there, were there any highlights as far as places that you played overseas?
There's a lot of great stuff. Salzburg's a great spot playing for Red Bull. It's such a cool organization. They do everything first class, and it's treated well, and you stay in the hotels. You're in 5-star hotels, and not that there's that much travel there, but when you do travel, it's well looked after. And the other thing is, my daughter was born there, so definitely have a soft spot for that place and a place in my heart. So that was great playing in Switzerland and Zug. I played for the Doug Shedden in Zug. My teammate Josh Holden, great guy, great teammate, and those guys were awesome. It was nice to play there and have those two as kind of support and also expats, so to speak. The city was beautiful. It's I don't know what the population was, probably 30 to 40,000. And the car dealerships in the town were Lamborghini, Maserati, BMW, Mercedes, and then I forget what the other one was, maybe Lotus. So you can that tells you what kind of town it was.
Well, if I remember correctly, hearing stories from both Josh Green and Jason Jaffrey, pretty much every player on the team got a vehicle that had the Salzburg Red Bulls logo down, your number on it, your name on it, and everything. So did you get one of the Mazzies?
No, we didn't get Maseratis in Salzburg. I don't know what it was Skoda was our sponsor, but whatever. You get a free car, you're not complaining.
Yeah, no kidding. Any food that you fell in love with over there?
Not really. Yeah, not really, to be honest with you. Nothing like you miss home. That's one thing you do miss is North American food. That being said, it is much healthier in Europe. Portion size are practical and ingredients are practical. You come back home and it's like 44-ounce Cokes and those kind of things. Those don't even exist over there. So it's more practical in Europe.
How about the language barrier?
That was tough. For me, that's in my path. Like there was one year in 2015, 16, I came back, and that's why I came. I just, part of it was language barrier, but being comfortable. I hadn't been comfortable in 3 or 4 years, and I wanted to come home and just hear English every day and be able to communicate and not speak in broken English while you're trying to tell a story or ask for something. So that was, a big part of it was the language barrier is tough.
Well, you had a stint where you came back and put up some pretty good numbers with Bridgeport, if I remember correctly, and then the decision to go back overseas. Was that a conscious decision?
Yeah, that was Portland. I just came back again.
Portland,
I
right.
wanted to be comfortable for a year. I needed a break, and then I know I did want to. I was at a point in my life and my age where I was like, I still felt like I could do it and I could make it in the NHL and get a chance back. So I took a crack at it, and all things didn't line up and didn't work out. So I said, okay, time to go back and make money. So, that year I took a big pay cut and I didn't even care about the pay. I was down in Florida and I actually was driving every day from Naples over to Fort Lauderdale to skate with the Panthers at their pre-training camp skates. And, everybody else that I get where they're at, they're just out there to get the rust off. I was there to prove a point. And I did enough out there that Dale Talon it was like, best guy out in the scrimmages. This guy's not even on our roster. So let's give him a chance. So they gave me a chance there in Portland, and it was a one-way AHL deal, which was a little bit disappointing. All I wanted was a two-way and an opportunity to play. In the beginning of the season, I did really well, and I think Barkov and Yager got hurt, so a couple first-line guys went down, and the guys that got called up, I was happy for them, but it was like, this ain't happening. So it's not going to happen. It's not going to work out. So I just knew I was going to be there for the year. And then after that season was over, it was time to go make money.
I'm always curious to know, with the time that you spent overseas and then coming back and looking at the league and the current state of where it's at, are there any suggestions that you would have for not only the National League, but all the way down through the ranks of things that they do overseas that could be implemented in North America?
I'm not sure. I have to think about that. No, I think the NHL is ran very well. It's a well-oiled machine. They do a great job taking care of the players, and it's first class all the way. The flights, the travel, the hotels, the meals, everything is well looked after. There's nobody better at it than them. That's the kind of stuff I played in the KHL. It was so far off from that level of care. I remember digging into a raw chicken at pregame lunch in the middle of Russia. It was wild. But the guys were tripping me that
raw or a lot raw.
What's that?
How raw are we talking? A little bit pink or all the way pink?
No, it was raw. I cut into it was raw, and then I made I'm like, guys, the chicken's raw, and then bleh, trippy, you soft. I'm not soft. You can't eat raw chicken, man. It's just that's not being soft. So, but yeah, the NHL does a hell of a job with taking care of the players, and it's second to none.
I heard there was a few stories out of the KHL where guys could fly the plane if they wanted to.
No, yeah. I was there the year after the crash in Locomotive, actually. So it was really nerve-wracking getting on the planes. Just obviously having that happen to a full team, and you never know. It's dicey. And I remember the first flight. It was not that it mattered. I'm probably dramatizing it too much, but over here there's certain flights where if there's not a lot of people on it, they'll ask you to kind of shift around and balance the weight. And so with that experience, and then the Locomotive experience the year before I got there, the first flight, they're bringing all the trunks and everything onto the plane. I'm like, what? And they're bringing it all to the back. All I could think about is we're never going to get off. We're going to be able to take off. I was shitting my pants for I'm like, till we got up in the air, I'm like, we're going down. But it was just, it was a little bit of a different experience for sure.
What were the hotels like staying in Russia?
I mean, the one time they had the Wi-Fi, they had a Wi-Fi box literally hanging from our ceiling, like from wires, not sitting on anything, just hanging out of the wall at the top of us. We were like, what is just stuff like that? You know, it's like trying to like cut corners everywhere, and it's so different. Is it manageable? Of course, but is it ideal? No.
What was the best city and the worst city in Russia to stay in, hotel-wise and accommodations?
St. Pete's was awesome. Where Scott plays out of, the beautiful city. I remember Kevin Dahlman was there, and Kovalchuk. We went out to dinner and we had a good time in that city. It was awesome. A beautiful city. Infrastructure is awesome. Architecture stuff. It's amazing. And the hotels were like North America-ish. I can't give one an absolute F grade. You know, I don't have one that sticks out to me. They were all the same. The bad ones were just all the same. They had the same crap, like Wi-Fi boxes hanging out of the wall, bathrooms were gross, that kind of stuff. Food was horrible for pregame lunch.
When you got the free car though from the Skodas, they put your name and number on that too?
Yeah, they do, and that's in like in KHL, you pay for your own stuff. Like they pay you well enough that where you're on your own for rent and car. I'm sure some guys maybe work into their deal, but most guys don't have that. It's mostly in the other European leagues. So like in Skellefteå in Sweden, I had that number 44 Schremp right across my door. Red Bull, same thing. Red Bull was a big Red Bull logo. Switzerland was the same, your name on it with your number. So there's different places, but usually they have that, and that's just part of the sponsorship.
It's a weird kind of insurance policy where they remind you like, hey, we'll give you a free car, but don't forget, everyone knows who you are and everyone knows where you are.
Oh yeah, it was wild. The one time in Skellefteå, we went out. We went out to there was some event that was going on, and luckily, ironically, I chose to be DD that night. I was like, I didn't feel like having beers or any alcohol, so I didn't drink. And I was driving everybody home at like 1:30, and the lights were on behind me. I was like, I thought it was an emergency, so I pulled over, and the guy he was like flagging me to pull in. So how does this go? He turned his lights on. I didn't pull over. I pulled into the gas station. And I just figured he was going to go by. Next thing you know, my door swung open and the guy went to give me a breathalyzer. And I was like, sure. I'm like, sure. I don't think this is appropriate, but sure. And I'm like, thankfully, I didn't even have one sip of alcohol. But also, I was like, wait a minute, my name and number's on the door. This is bizarre. Interesting, but nothing happened. He's like, okay, have a good night. I'm like, I will. You dick.
Meanwhile, coming back to cheers in the back of the car. Yeah.
I got it all night too. Like come on, just have one. I'm like, nah, I just didn't want to that night. I just don't want a beer. I'm good.
Man,
and I held it off. So that was for a reason, I guess.
Someone out there telling you, nope, not tonight.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was thinking more so you go to the grocery store at the Super Ika and they say, Shrimp, you can't park in the handicap fella. Your name and number's in the car. Morning skate.
Yeah, that's funny.
So listen, let's go back to some of the mentorship and whatnot. You talked about how you're working with the Geneva team and whatnot. What about locally? I mean, are you still involved with the London Knights? Tell us about that.
I go out there. Yeah, obviously Dale was my coach and Dylan was my teammate and Rick Stedman were my teammates. So last year when I got back, I moved here from Hong Kong. I was out there quite a bit just on a voluntary basis and just it was nice to get on the ice with that high level players. I mean, obviously they won the Mem Cup last year. They had some super high end guys with Barkey, Cowan, O'Reilly, Dickinson. There was a ton of awesome players. So it was nice to get out there and just work with them with some shooting stuff and whatever advice I could give them and be around. This year it's just getting kicked off now. I've been super busy, but I just go out there on it, to be out there and be a support for the players this year. And then also there's the Owen Sound have reached out, Owen Sound Attack. So I might be, likely going to be doing stuff with them with skills, power play, and working with them on more of a job basis. So I love doing the video stuff and the development and being a mentor. Big for me, the offensive side of the game always came natural, and I luckily have the ability to articulate that and what it takes to do that. And I can do it through video and also through, Zoom calls and communication. So I enjoy that piece and giving people and players nuggets, watch them go do it and make it their own. And, that part of it's so much fun for me.
Was that something that came to you as a thought after retirement or towards retirement where you thought, started thinking about what you're going to do after?
I just had a light bulb moment when I shut it down. what the game needed. And, it's not that it's proprietary, but I knew that personalized video was something that definitely didn't exist in a scale basis. There's Oatsy, Adam Oates and Belfry. I know they're in the space for a while. They're on kind of an exclusive and sort of high end guys. And the big thing for me too was like my last year playing in Red Bull. I remember being on the bus and chirping the guys. Like they would open up their laptop and watch YouTube videos on like Fortnite or whatever they're playing, Call of Duty. Then they'd pull up their system and do it. And I'm like, you guys realize you can do the same with your game, right? And they're shut up. I'm like, okay, whatever. Then after I thought about that, I was like, that is true though. Like a lot of, that doesn't need to be just high level players. Like you're talking 14, 15, 16-year-olds. We have Live Barn in every rink now. Why don't it would just be beneficial to have a high level mind inserting and watching those shifts and teaching. So what I did from there was I created this company, 44 Vision Hockey. And I gathered 32 coaches together. And a big piece of it too was what my mind went to. I have a big appreciation for the women's game. I thought we should get some high level girls to give back to the game. And also the women don't really have that revenue like we do in the boys side. I wanted them to make money and be compensated for their brilliance and what they do in the game. So I had 8 Olympic team member women's on there to coach. That being said, I collected all this and then COVID hit and all the rink shut down. So it kind of.
But it almost seems like you were ahead of the curve because that's kind of where the game went with COVID was a lot of online coaching. So you kind of feel like you got sniped on that one a bit?
Yeah, it seems to be the par for the course for me in a lot of ways in this game. I seem to be early on a lot of stuff, and it comes to fruition later on. So yeah, and like I said, it wasn't proprietary back then, but now you just see it all over. There's 5 college kids that are together as a team and doing video coaching, or 10 or whatever. There's a lot of different people that are getting together as groups. That the group thing didn't really exist back then. So I was excited to launch it, but once the rink shut down, you get 4, 5, 6 months into that kind of stuff. You got all those high level people. They got other stuff to do. So, unfortunately, it just didn't pan out. And I was living in Latvia at the time. So it was also tough being in a different time zone and not really having anything to do with the group. So the video stuff has been a passion piece of mine for a long time. And for me, with the new diagramming and the ability to articulate through diagramming, and, I got this one software, Knack Sport Clip Draw. You can pause the clip and then make the play, like draw the clip, drag the players, put delays in it. You can pretty much produce, you're basically a producer, so to speak, but you're putting your brain into that clip and showing the player the different route like that. That's a lot of fun to me. And it's super impactful for the players. So that's something I have a lot of passion about. The other thing too, is when you're working with, teenage boys and even young men, like there's always the ego and the fight back. When you grab a clip and you insert this information, there's no this excuse you get a lot is, oh, my coach said, or my last coach, or this is that. There's always something to push back. There's no pushback with video because it's pretty direct.
Well, I think you're kind of bridging the gap when you said, treating it almost like a video game, the way they kind of, look at models about how do I get better at this video game. You're kind of bridging that gap. And I'm curious I was surprised actually that there's still the amount of pushback when you're putting it on a level that they would understand.
Yeah, that's just ego. I had an ego at one time too. So it's there's always pushback. There's always friction. But once they start to trust you and realize that you're only there, I always tell the guys that I work with, I'm like your big brother. That's it. Like, I'm not your coach. I'm not the police. Like, you're not in trouble. It's always like a mentorship. And, when I give you something, it's I see you going down the wrong way of a one-way road, and I'm going to tell you to get, turn around. If you don't want to, you can keep going down that path. I just suggest you get off that road. So it's, I find ways to break through and get that trust with the players. And then it's more of a friendship than, but the beginning is always friction. It's always pushback and,
It's
ego.
funny. A lot of the guys that we've talked to over the course of this series point out a lot of the differences between the players now and then the players when they were that age. And you seem to draw more parallels towards the similarities as far as these players. Is there a reason for that?
I don't really know. I don't know how to answer that, to be honest with you.
I think maybe you see it at a different level. I mean, you're looking at these guys as young hockey players, because I think one of the biggest differences is the culture of a lot of these young guys coming up. I mean, they're not heading out to the bar anymore together. They're staying in their rooms and they're playing hours and hours of Fortnite, like you said. And I think that's one of the big differences. But when it comes right down to it, they're still teenage boys or young men, like you said, who are focused on hockey first and foremost, and that's where you find the similarities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game is it's the same, right? The nets are in the same place, the dimensions are the same. So we're doing the same thing, and a lot of the game is all about math and angles and routes. So it's the same. And whether their personality changes, it has changed a lot. A lot more information now. They're getting a lot more information in general to their daily basis, and so are we. Obviously Instagram reels and these kind of things didn't exist when I was 17, 18. There's more information coming through these kids, so they're more hungry for information. And back in our time, like, pushback would, or asking for more feedback would almost be met with like, shut your mouth and do what you're told. Now it's more like in my opinion, like, you should be able to, if there's a little, it's for the player side of it. It's about how you present it too. If you're going to present it to me, even as your mentor, like, you're pushing back on me and you're pushing me into a corner, like I don't know what I'm talking about, that's going to bother me. And I'm going to have a bad reaction to that. But if you genuinely ask in the proper way, tone and words matter, and you say it in a way where I'm like, yeah, this kid's curious, I'll go to the end of the world explaining it to you. And I'm happy to do that. So that's important too, how you're presenting it. But I feel like you should be able to, if you know what you're talking about and you're confident in your knowledge, you should be able to, again, go to the depths with this player. A lot of times I get caught going way too far with how much I explain. Like, I can, you can see the player or the person being like, okay, I got it. You sure? I had about 5 more minutes worth of talking, I can tell you. But I'm confident in that, and I think that's important. You kind of give all the information and the whys and the whats for this stuff if you want to have an impact on someone's kind of style.
I'm seeing a couple parallels. You mentioned earlier that when you're going through the adversity of your playing career, you really didn't have any support, and it seems like what you're doing is a complete 180, where you're giving the players everything that you possibly can to compendiously articulate your ideas and your visions to help them, and like you said, be like an older brother. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I hearing maybe a lot of the curiosity that you had as a player was met with a lot of pushback from some of the coaches in pro? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think the other thing too is, in this setting, I see the game a different way, and I know how to, I can kind of play fast-paced chess. So I see the game a different way and how to move pieces around. And sometimes, in my day, like, a coach has a certain way of seeing it and wants it. And it's for me, it was tough because I saw it differently. Like rules of, like, you're only allowed to rim the puck along the wall. And if you want to make neutral zone passes, you got to make them waist high, like clappers. And when you get over the blue line, you got to shoot at the net and everybody crash it. It was tough for me to eat that. So the pushback in that sense was trying to play the game at a chess game when we're kind of expected to play a checkers game was tough. And also with teammates too, like when you're trying to suggest something, there's a lot of ego and stuff, and they could feel like they're getting angled. But for me, it was more about, like, the more communication we have and helping you see the play is a help for all of us. It's not just like me being a dictator. So that was tough too, a little bit when I was playing. Some guys that got along great, like a guy like Robert Nielsen, me and him saw the ice so well together. It was like hand in glove. It was so much fun. And you want to duplicate that no matter where you go, but that takes, some communication, a lot of whiteboard talking, drawing chicken scratch plays up on the whiteboard. So, that's what I dealt with a little bit coming through.
It sounds like you're almost a bit ahead of your time, like you mentioned earlier. Like, you're thinking this way, and this is your vision of playing hockey like chess. But with the coaches of the late 2000s, early 2010s, they're on that checkers timeline. And like, do you feel like you were too early, genuinely?
Yeah. I mean, the right fit, like, a guy like Steve Ludzig, I got to play for him my rookie year. Like, he got me pretty well. He was the same. He went through the same in his day in the 80s and 90s. Where he kind of got boxed in a little bit. So he understood me, and he had, some guidelines for me that I had to meet if I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And that was great. He was my favorite coach. I respected him so much, and I still do to this day. I just saw him last weekend. Him and his wife, Marianne, came and picked me up actually from the Buffalo airport. But the way he approached me was amazing. There are guardrails, and you can't be a loose cannon, which growing up I kind of was, because I was so offensive and I could do so many things with the puck. And at the end of the night, I usually had 3 or 4 points. So, you get a lot of freedom with that. That, I guess, it was great to grow my creativity, but then you get to the OHL, you got to have guardrails. You got to do things a little bit differently. So, and then as you go up even more, for me, I think I did see the game, pretty advanced And some coaches saw it as I was the only one seeing the game like that. And then there's 19 other guys that don't. So I had to change.
Rob, I'm hearing a lot of talk coming out of you where I feel like there was a moment before you started all these aforementioned things that you're doing really well in that you thought for a second, maybe I could be behind the bench. Am I on that?
Well, I don't. Yeah, I do love that. I do. I mean, I would probably strive as a coach. You know, I understand it pretty well, and strategy, line matches, whatever it might be. Like, you know, I'm a very observant person, so I got to play for a lot of different coaches. I'm listening and picking up things and watching and observe. Pick up a ton of detail. I can tell you guys what hand they are, what number they are, what kind of skates they wear, all this stuff. I pick up a lot of information. So
you're the Jason Bourne of hockey, is what you're saying. The Jason Bourne of hockey.
Something like that. Yeah. No, I don't know. I'll take that tag though. Jason Bourne's badass.
Robbie, your trips must have been outrageous. Like if you're picking up on like guys' curves or lies, what kind of style of gloves they had on, like the amount of detail and precision in your trips must have been outrageous in the day.
Oh, they were good, buddy. And I got them young too, because I grew up when I was like 11. I was skating with the Tier 2 Junior A team. So I got my education from like Matt Murley, Mike Zabek, these guys, Timmy Conley, and these guys were, they were legends, and they also had good chirps. So I got my education early, and then when I was 14 playing in that league, I had to have a good yap. It was more of a bark than a bite, but I was barking quite a bit.
How was it trying to get that kind of mental game when there's a language barrier out on the ice?
With the chirping?
Yeah.
You can't. It doesn't land. It doesn't count when you got to explain the chirp. Yeah. Does your coach know you're out here? What? Never mind.
Are there any moments that stand out for you, though, Shrimpy? Like, best trip you ever delivered, knockout punch, or best time you got in the North American system? Because obviously the Swedes weren't quite understanding what you were throwing down.
Yeah, I can't say what I said, but I can say, well, Dennis bought me one time to this guy. He goes, holy shit, bud, look at that nose. You could smoke a cigar in the shower with that thing. And the guy was like, I started dying on the bench, man. That was one of the best trips ever, because the guy had a huge toss. I can't remember who it was, but he had a huge toss, and it landed perfect. He was like butthurt by it too. You know what I mean? Like, it actually, he was like insecure about it.
What team was that with?
Wilkes-Barre.
Oh.
Would you have been part of that team that had that run in the finals against the Chicago Wolves?
No, we were 06, 07. Okay. So we lost to Norfolk. They had their Stanley Cup team there, basically. Everybody, Duncan Keith, Bufflin, Bolin, Versteeg, Wisniewski, and then they had like Reedlow. It was nuts back then. Like, the league was sick with players, but it was also like insane with tough guys. Philly had Grenier, who was like 6'6", 230. Tristan Grant, Josh Gratton, like, it was nuts. We had Carcillo, Bonby, Karkner. Ryan Stone was pretty tough. Like, it was a wild league back then, to be honest with you. The AHL was a bit of even more of a jungle than it is these days.
Okay, here comes the standard question. What was your first big purchase when you got that first big hockey check?
Oh, buddy, I got a Range Rover Sport.
How much? Off the rack or custom?
I got it off the rack. I went right to the dealership, bought it.
And do you still have it?
No, dude. That was 21 years ago.
Okay.
Can I ask how much the signing bonus was and how much of a chunk the car took out of the check?
Yeah, I signed. I was in the old days, so my signing bonus was $800,000, and the car went and cost me $90,000. Yeah, it wasn't smart, but you know what?
Well,
I struggled.
And let's talk about that for a second. We've talked about it on the show before. I mean, handing an 18-year-old kid that kind of money, it's really irresponsible, again, with the lack of support and the lack of education. Handing a kid that kind of money is dangerous. It's like handing them a loaded gun.
Yeah, I think so. And there was good people around me. I had Rob Ramage, but I was an idiot. Like, I wasn't going to listen. I wanted that, and growing up not having, it's the moment of being able to have. It's indescribable. Felt good. Looking at it now at 39, was I an idiot? Absolutely. So stupid. And there was also people telling me how stupid it was. So I can't blame anybody else but myself, but I put a lot of hours into it, and I wanted it, and I got it. So, that's kind of it. And again, it's the worst investment ever, but Range Rover Sport is what I wanted since I was like 14. I was going to go and get it, and I got it. That's that.
Do you at least have a picture of it?
I do have a picture in front of it. I'll send it to you guys after if you guys want to post it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Post like it was my babe.
Was it $90K cash, or did you have a trade-in?
No, I wrote a check.
No trade-in? You didn't trade in the van or the SUV?
I didn't have a car. No, I leased one up here in London when I played my last year, and then that car, I went down and bought it in Wilkes-Barre. It was also like a pick me up because I got sent down and cut, so I wanted to bring up my mood.
That's a really good way to do it, by the way.
Yeah, the other guys are like, "You're an idiot." I'm like, I know. Don't worry, you're gonna get to know me a lot this year.
Hey, coach, you see the new car? Pretty nice, huh?
The coach said something to me too. Todd Richards. He said, I don't know what he said. What's that car? I'm like, you like it, bud? And he goes, who do you think you are that you can call me bud? I'm like, what? You're not my bud? He's like, no, I'm your coach. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess we're not gonna be buds.
So based on a couple of these stories, if you could go back and talk to 18-year-old Rob Schremp and shake him by the shoulders, what would you say to him?
Relax. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, but it doesn't need to be. So it was a lot of stress. I should relax a little bit and stay grounded in who I am at the core, which is a pretty happy-go-lucky guy, and life is good.
Well, you seem like it, but at the same time, staying involved in the game and not having a big break in between. This is the honest question. Have you had time to kind of decompress and get rid of all that PTSD that you had and really kind of deal with that younger version of yourself?
Going through it now, actually, the NHL alumni has been great. They helped out with therapy and stuff like that. So I've been seeing a guy and talking about the past, and it's helped me out huge. I've also read a book, The Power of Now, my sister recommended, and just in doing some growth stuff, a lot of growth stuff. It takes time to get over. Does it help to talk about it? Yeah, sure, but there's also got to be actionable stuff. So there was another thing I got on the path with Matt Molson's dad, Scott Molson, in this. It's really helped me out a lot. He's mentoring me as well in getting on the path of life. When we come out of hockey, we're like babies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're so I was called pampered, but babied is probably a good word for it. Like, be there tomorrow at 9 and game this or whatever. Everything's scheduled, mapped out for you. Then you get out into the wild, and it's like, holy shit! I need to figure out like emailing and CCing and circling back and synergies, all these terms and all these things that you do in business. I was so new to. So it's been good to have a mentor in the transition, but it's not easy to transition. And, there's a huge void when you shut it down. There's just such a hole. So,
well, I've said before on this show, the amount of times that I can count of guys reaching out to me saying, how do I get into broadcasting? How do I get into hockey broadcasting once the career is done? I mean, that's the natural cause. Like, how do I stay involved in the game in whichever way I can? Because that's that comfort blanket, right?
Yeah. That's something that's what we stick to what we know. For me, I didn't. I went outside the game, and I'm backing it now to a degree, but I walked away for a couple of years totally and worked on some business stuff and help grow and develop a startup company and doing these things again, learning the rope. And, it was tough at 33, 34, but now that I'm 39, 7 years out, I'm glad I went through those growing pains when I did early and not doing that at like 42, 43, because, now I can start to do the good part of life and, be in the business world and be useful.
Well, I'm curious to know, and only because we've had conversations about this over the summer with a few professionals about this, but the transition out of hockey and having your wife there, that seems to be a real big ball of wax with a lot of guys in relationships, and you guys seem to have pulled it off really well. Do you have any tips on that?
It's important you know who you're marrying, first of all. I think that might be Captain Obvious to say, but I think a little bit with the professional sports, you can go after the shiny thing and go after the, that sort of thing. It's important the person that you're marrying and that person. My wife's been the same person since we met 13 years ago. She's an amazing human being. She's beautiful, awesome mom. And that's what's important. So whether I'm gone 14 days out of the month or I'm home for 365 days a year, we have the same relationship, which is important. I think when you shut it down, obviously, you're used to that travel and you have two different relationships, almost like one when you're home and one when you're on the road. That's tough because then when you no longer have the road, you got one relationship. So, the person you marry and what their core values are really important. So that's what I found. with my wife.
Good on you, man. You're part of a small percentage, so kudos to you. That's amazing.
I'm good for her. She's the best. So,
Do you mind if I get a little personal on this one?
okay, no problem, bud. You can't have her number, bud.
No.
He's looking. He's looking.
So Dave's been married 13? No, 2012.
No, I'm
right?
going on 14 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
My numbers are short. Too many pucks off the head. But that question was kind of spawned out of, obviously Dave's off the market, but myself, I'm currently on the market trying to make some good decisions and not end up in some bad situations. So as a more seasoned gentleman yourself, and as the man to my left always likes to say, it's a lot easier and significantly cheaper to learn from the mistakes of others. Would you give this 29-year-old any advice when it comes to finding that person, future kids, family, and creating that structure? Floor is yours.
This might be tough. Maybe, and it doesn't matter because I don't care what.
No, hang on. He's going to drop a diagram. He's going to have it all interpolated with.
Give you a roadmap to success, buddy. The road to greatness.
I'm very visual, so that would help.
For me, it's core values, and my wife being European and women of Europe, I found just have that core value of, it's a little bit old times, but like what men's role is, what women's role is, and how we support each other in that way. I think it's lost a little bit over here, in my opinion. European women are great that way, and it's not to put them in that box. It's how but with she takes care of the house, makes a home out of it, and I bring the bread, and that's and when we have a child, when we had our child together, it wasn't like she did me a favor by getting pregnant. Like this was like an experience for us to go through. And I see that a lot over here. It's almost like the man is in trouble because she's having his baby. It's like our baby. So that process is important, and what they're, how they handle that is important. But the day-to-day roles and what I provide, what she provides, we support each other. So finding a woman that's in that realm is important. I don't think you're going to find that on Instagram through the story page or through the recommended. And that takes time to spend together and just, again, get to the real questions of what their values are.
I feel like I'm getting deja vu because we've had that almost exact same conversation. Maybe not going to Europe, but
take it from a couple of guys who are seasoned. You know what I mean?
That's
Take
why
it
I
from a
asked the
couple of
question.
guys. Yeah. Thank you for echoing a lot of the same things I've said to him, Rob.
So I'm just shooting from the hip here. A lot of the West has lost those values, and I'll speak to it firsthand. Talking with Dave about it, they're very, very difficult to find because they've almost brainwashed to totally lose those. You do the jobs that you're good at, I'll do the jobs that I'm good at, type of deal. Do you have any other tips that come to mind or advice on that aspect?
Well, it's tough. Even when we were in a group, my wife loves when I play golf because it makes me happy. That's.
Did we marry the same woman? Does she golf with you?
Little blonde, blue eyes, Marta.
Does she golf with you out of curiosity?
Sometimes she doesn't really like it, so she stopped going. I brought her when we were down in Florida. We went out a bunch, and she just didn't generally like it. It's like my therapy. I'm truly happy out on the golf course, and that makes her happy. But at the time we were down there, and there's a group of guys that we were around, and their girls started being like, why do you let him do that? And I nixed it right away. I'm like, I'm not going to get in your business, but why are they getting in my business? Shut the F up.
Oh, man.
Why would you try to influence our situation? The other thing is that I'm a one handicap. So when I go play golf, it takes me 3 hours. When you go out there and whack it around and you shoot 120 and it takes you 6 hours, it's a different story because it's 6 hours for the round and then it's 2 hours with the beers and you're home 8 hours later. You know what I mean? It's a little different story.
Well, listen. Sorry, go on. I don't want to cut you off. Go on.
No, that's just I think it's important that that whoever you find or whoever you're looking for is, again, genuinely likes the things that you're into, likes what makes you happy, and then you have the reverse for them. They get to do what they love and what makes them happy, and you're supporting each other. It's not find someone and then try to mold them to what you want. You're going to find that you're going to get down the road and you're like, wait a minute, I don't like that person. You got to let them be themselves and truly love that about them, or you're just killing time.
I mean, the big takeaway I'm hearing from this is
golf. That's what you're hearing. Golf.
I do enjoy it. I'm just not very good. But what I'm hearing, Shrimpy, and tell me if I'm wrong, keep our business between us. Don't have other people coming in our shit. It's our business, our relationship, and leave everybody else it's none of their business type of deal.
Absolutely. I mean, that's, because if you wanted their opinion or you wanted another girl's opinion on this stuff, or you wanted her opinion, you would go for her, no?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, the girls are going to have their friendships, their bonds, and who they hang out with matter, just like who we hang out matter. You know, whoever you are, who you surround yourself with. That goes both ways. You know, if she's with the girls that are going out and dancing on the tables, and, you know, you're with the guys that are trying to wheel every night, like, what are you going to do there? So, keeping your stuff, like, again, between you two, and then, yeah, there will be people around, of course, but it's always you two versus the world kind of mentality.
Yeah. Well, another thought that's coming to mind as you're saying this is, like, her friends are always going to have some influence on there. So make sure, like, they're good friends and they're good influences. So they're not going to, like, sabotage and destroy the relationship. And that's very common, especially over the West, with how much women love to gossip and very, like, hive minded. Like, they go with the hive type of deal. So
Yeah.
that's one thought that, okay, we got some wheels in motion, Shrimpy. I appreciate this. This is good.
We're going to start a love channel here. We're going to get the radio, the love channel on 93Q.
You know, Jordan Schmaltz was on, and he called it this week's episode of Finding Love with Trav. So, and it's been a staple every week since.
As you can tell, it's a reoccurring episode every time we do this. Shrimpy, I'm going to tell you something, and this is probably something you already know, and I'll tell you a personal anecdote. When my wife and I first met, I said to her, listen, I love to golf. So do you golf? And she said no. I said, okay, we got two options. Either that becomes Dave's time, or you can learn how to golf because we got to do something together when we get older. And she goes, I want to learn. And now we got the perfect foursome. We golf together with my two boys. They're 14 and 11. And it'll be a harder uphill climb for my boys. But if you can get a golf club in your daughter's hand sooner than later, the amount of scholarships that are available for women's golf down in the U.S., I don't need to tell you, man, that is a ticket to an education.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pushing. I don't push her at all. And everybody, she play hockey. I'm like, we tried to put her in gear once and she threw a wicked tantrum. So I was like, okay, I'll never do that again. I'll never try to push her. If she asks, I'm happy to. But the golf, I am a little bit like, I bring it up a couple of times a week.
Good.
Wouldn't you love the golf? Wouldn't you just love to golf?
And just even up, a little mini putt. You know, just getting a club in her hand and making that, getting that ball in the hole, and that feeling they get. She'll fall in love with it. The apple doesn't fall far. You mentioned women's hockey. I want to touch on that a little bit. I want to get more of your thoughts on the current state of the women's game and the way it's growing and the way they're expanding. And it seems like you have a general interest in this.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I was training with these girls, Rebecca Johnson and Bailey Brom, back in the day in London, and just seeing their passion. And, going way back when I was 12, I was dating a girl back in my hometown. She was on I'm going to pump my own tires. She was 15 at the time, but she was on the women's U19 team, and those girls were awesome. They won 3 championships in 3 years. I skated with them every week, twice a week. So that was the first time. Back then I was probably more, they were beautiful girls. So I was hanging around. That was what it was about. But as I got older and I started training with those 2 girls I mentioned, Johnny and Bailey, I just got to appreciate, like, their passion and their drive and their work ethic. It was insane. And it really made me gravitate towards them and start to take a look at women's hockey. And then when I did retire, I was with a company we sponsored, the NWHL, which is, it's folded now, but wanting to give them a platform and insert in their game. My brother's daughter plays too, so there's obviously passion there. But for the girls, it's just, and the women, it's about giving them an opportunity because they love this game just like we do. And whatever support I can give, I try to do. And that's, some are awesome. You got this girl, Arwen Nylander. She's over in Sweden. I've had her on the ice when she was 14, 15, 16. And there's 19-year-old boys on the ice. She's shooting at 10, 15 miles an hour faster, sniping on goalies. I love that. I love to be able, I'm not taking all the credit. She put the work in, but I gave her the technique. I gave her that technique and she ran with it. I love that stuff. So girls are just as capable. We want to build a platform for them to be able to, stay in the game. Because that's the thing with the women's game. They get to college, they got their scholarship. If they don't make the women's national team, then it's over. Well, and now there's a place where it's not like that.
And talk me off the ledge here a little bit, because I'm really at a crossroads right now where I understand that these women want to get paid, and they absolutely deserve to get paid when the revenue starts coming in. And the way that the model is set up right now is that they're selling tickets really cheap, they're filling the barn, and they're trying to get excitement there. I think the money's going to be there eventually, but I think holding everyone to account that the pay gap is unfair right now is kind of, I don't want to say greedy, but it's the placement isn't there yet. The game needs to grow more. They're still expanding. They'll get there, but they can't be asking for a handout yet. Am I accurate on that?
I don't disagree at all, and I don't think I wouldn't say it's fair. Again, I have so much appreciation for their game and for what they do in the game. That being said, that is blind economics, and you can't do blind economics. It doesn't work. Business is business, and feelings go out in business because money talks, and what you bring in and what you kill is what you eat. So it's not fair to ask that. And then, and I, I don't want to get into a huge argument about it, but that's the, the way it is. Like, who's going to just throw money away and just give it out? Like, you have to, again, it's about revenue, ticket sales. And the other thing is too, is it's not fair to compare to the boys games, because the boys game, men's game, like, it was built on 100 years of barbaric war and brawls and everything that these guys went through this, whatever, through the last 100 years. Where our games at now, it's not so barbaric, but just saying, like, that's what the foundation of the NHL is built on. And that's why we're at where we're at now. So to be able to just supersede all that, jump over all that, and be like, no, we want the same as the guys now. Like, I don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
That being said, I love their game and I love what they're doing. Well, we brought our team from Hong Kong to an PWHL game in Ottawa. It was sick. It actually had a better attendance than the Ottawa 67s.
Yeah.
We brought them to a Senators game, 2 Senators games. We brought them to an Ottawa 67s versus the Pete's game, and then we brought them to the PWHL game. So that was really cool for those kids to see all that. But again, the barn was packed, and it was a great atmosphere. It was really cool. A lot of young girls really inspired and cheering on, and you can imagine the screeching. But it was great for the women's game.
I wouldn't mind personally seeing, like, the women just accept the women's game and the men's game are very, very different, and it feels like they're trying to blend the two. Like, we are the same as the men's, but it's like, if we can acknowledge that men and women are completely different creatures, and therefore the game is going to be completely different. If they were to embrace that instead of fighting that, I feel like they'd be bringing in more revenue, and it would actually be growing a lot more, as opposed to just the give me money, give me money, give me money, because the NHL gets paid $10 million a year.
Yeah, I had my opinion on it, and I spoke about it on Chicklets, but it's like, and it's not a sexist thing to say at all, but I feel like the perfect world scenario, they would make smaller rinks, smaller dimensions, and have them have their own customs. Because for me, as someone that respects them and wants the best for them, I'm also a consumer of hockey and a fan. When I watch Brent Burns, 6'3", 220, do what he does on the ice, and if people that don't know what he does on the ice, he flies around, he buzzes, he's so agile, he's got whatever, the beard matters, but he got a massive beard, he shoots the puck 100 miles an hour, right? I watch that, or I watch Patrick Kane come and do his shimmies off the half wall and manipulate a penalty kill. I watch that with my consumer eye, and we wipe them off, and we bring out the girls. It's not the same. It never will be. I shouldn't say it never will be, but you get what I'm saying. If you shrink the dimensions, I think you have a different dimension. You have a different view of what's going on out there, and I think it accelerates or heightens the skill set of the girls. But watching them on the same size, for me, it's not the same.
Well,
how is it going to be?
Well, and I think this might be a very off comparison, but I mean, you take NASCAR and you take Formula One. They're both car racing, but they're both very different styles of car racing. One is more smash and grab, the other one is much more finesse, and they understand that they are very different. Drivers can both drive the cars, but I think Trav is right. If they kind of separated themselves and saying we're a different brand of hockey, they might be onto something.
I think so. Yeah, I don't disagree. That being said, they are very good at the game. The game on their side has developed a lot. It's come a long way. It used to be really only U.S. and Canada. Now we're seeing other countries come up and compete, and not at being able to win a 7-game series per se, but they're competing against those top dogs. So the game's developing, and the women's game is they have the most growth. So their numbers are accelerating, which is great. And now it's a matter of just continuation of that. And like you said, a little bit of patience and a little combined. What I said is, like, the men's game is built on. I mean, my uncles used to go to the slapshot days in Syracuse and literally watch the keychain being thrown from the stands. My uncle Ray actually used to be one of the hecklers. I guess my dad said he was such a pain in the ass at the games. He used to cause so many brawls. So many guys wanted to come up in the stands after him because there was no glass behind the benches either. So it's just like, you're right there talking all this shit. Those guys wanted to kill him. But
there's a certain romance about that. You know what I mean? There's a certain romance about those old days where you kind of go, man, I wish I was part of that chaos.
I know. It was great.
Did you ever have anything like that, Shrimpy? In the minors, in the American League, OHL, any brawls? Any
we
stuff
had
like that?
In Peterborough, we had some dads get into it, and then one of the guys jumped over the bench and went over. In Kitchener, they changed now, obviously, but in my day, they didn't have glass behind the bench either. So it was the same stuff. Like these people were ruthless behind the bench and just talking shit and spilling stuff on you, and you know, did everything you could to not. There's actually one clip of me on the internet. It says "shrimp idiot." It turned like you just see me go through the Zamboni door and like swinging my stick, but what they don't see is I was skating by and one of the fans spit through the glass right on me, and I just went irate and I tried to spear with my stick. I was unsuccessful, but it looks bad on YouTube. But the backstory is that, I mean, anybody loses their shit when you get spit on. That's the grossest thing you can do.
I agree.
What's the grossest thing somebody dumped on you from behind the bench, and what's the best chirp from a fan you heard in Kitchener?
Obviously beer was always being spilled. In Windsor was the same too, but in Kitchener it was beer, and then somebody was chirping me, and I smiled at him, and then he said, "Where'd you get those caramel colored teeth?" Because I chew tobacco back in the day, and I must have had a lot on my teeth.
Yeah, I noticed you and I are both on the Zins. We both graduated from Copenhagen. Congratulations to you.
He was right, though. I went and looked in the mirror and two peers. They were like,
isn't that the worst? You get tripped and you're like, oh, man, there's some truth to this. Damn, I got to fix my teeth. Shit.
Who's got a toothbrush?
Schremp, we've taken up a lot of your time. I want to hear really quickly. I want to roll out the red carpet for you and hear all about the endeavors that you have going on with your ag and your golf. But first, I want a quick story. Hong Kong. Tell me about it. Why, how, and the highlights.
Yeah, no, I was in Latvia, and we were kind of there for the pandemic, and it was just stagnant. And I got a call out of the blue asking if I would take that call. So Jason Swales, a guy that he builds rinks over in these countries, in these South Asia areas and different countries, he builds rinks. He asked me if I would take the call from their owner, and I said for sure, I'll take a call. And next thing you know, I was on a flight out there to check it out, and I just figured why not. And ironically, when my daughter was born, my father-in-law was like, make sure she learns Mandarin. I was like, the hell is this guy talking about? Because we're in Latvia, I speak English, and then 6 years later we're in Hong Kong, and ironically enough, my daughter picked up some Mandarin. Yes. So that was cool. It was a great experience. It's a developing country. The Olympics being there, I think it was 18 in China, is very close, and there's a lot of development there. There's a lot of passion. The game's going to need a lot, but it needs more of what I did, a little bit more time spent there. Like there's a lot of people that go in there and do camps, but what are you going to leave after a week-long camp? Maybe a couple tidbits, but it takes time and it takes development. So I got to go there and work with some kids. There was a kid, Henry Jung, Mitchell Smith, Godfrey. There was like probably 4 or 5, 6 kids that are AAA level globally. They could play in Canada. I'm not saying they'd be Wayne Gretzky. I'm just saying they would be able to play in that.
Are these expats kids, or are these local Hong Kong Chinese kids?
Local, like Mitchell Smith's uncle played in the AHL. He's in the AHL Hall of Fame. Brad Smith, he's a really good goal scorer and tough player. I think he had around 600 points in the A. So, but he was born in Hong Kong. His dad moved there 30 years ago for finance, and obviously the kid was born there. So, technically, I don't know what to call him. Is he an expat? I don't think so. I think he's local.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So, yeah, like a first generation Chinese born. Okay.
Yeah. So there was a bunch of that, and Henry Jung is from actually they're from Korea. They moved to Hong Kong for hockey and to live there. So there was a little bit of a mixture, and a lot of there's a level of interest at the higher level, like elite and AAA, like they want to go play and they want to take hockey somewhere. The big passion is that their kids get into prep school and they can use hockey as a vehicle. So they're very smart kids and they're very determined, and hockey is a gateway for them to get to a prep school. And the big Stanley Cup for most of them is like an Ivy League school. So that's what the passion was there, and it was fun. It was great. It was a lot of work, but it was cool to have an impact there. I went back there at the end of August for 12 days to go back and see the kids and give them a little refresher, and it was fun to see the kids' development and see where they're at with their game.
From friends of mine that have gone, they say it's like landing on a different planet.
Yeah, it's like out of a movie. It's great, but I enjoyed it. And for me, probably the biggest thing came out of Hong Kong, I think, on a personal level. I got sober there. I stopped drinking alcohol. I haven't drank since the middle of that season, so I've almost spent 2 years no booze. That's a highlight for me. It was a big accomplishment, and it was partially being there. I met some great people and helped me along the way. And that's a big turning stone for me.
Congratulations, man. That's huge. I'm 3 months sober as of last week. And Trav, I don't think you've ever had a drink, have you?
About 8 years.
8
Almost
years.
9 years.
Good for you.
That's amazing, dude.
Red carpet's open for you. Tell us about this endeavor with the farming and the ag and the golf. I'm excited. What do you got?
I got a lot going on. So I'm doing business development for a biotech agricultural company called Earth Microbial. We work with golf courses, and we do a lot with the greenhouse farming. It's been fun. Business development's kind of a natural thing for me. I help them connect dots in Latvia, connect dots in Hong Kong, down in Florida, all over Canada. So I have what I didn't realize when I was playing was that I have a big network. And when you're playing, it's just your buddies. And when you're later on in life, like I am now, it's considered a network. And it's been amazing to realize what that means and how to use that for a positive for a company. So that's been fun doing that. And I get to golf a lot with that job, meet the supers and play their course. And then on top of that, we're in the process of making a movie. It's going to be called The Ice. And my buddy, an old friend of mine, and Mikkel Kresick, he played for Guelph. We're teaming up, and we're getting the ball going on that, and working on getting our director right now and our cast. Where our big wish and my wish, it's on my life story, and we're going to get to cast. We're looking at Tyler Kitsch to be the lead role, and he plays hockey. He's nasty, and he's perfect for the role. So we're looking at getting him. We've got him a 1-pager right now, and hopefully he says yes.
I don't know if you know, but I was in this great movie called Goon. So if you're looking for a cast, look no further, my friend. I can multi-talented actor here. Let me know whatever you need. I can't play an 18-year-old hockey player anymore, but I can do other things.
All right, perfect.
It has been our top holiday gift the last 2 years. We did the Christmas gift giving guide, and it'll be the third year this year. Goon, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Sling the Biscuit Summer Interview Series with NHL legend Rob Schremp. My name is Travis Ridgen. That's Dave Wheeler. We do new episodes every single Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 in the Prairies, 9 in the foothills of Calgary, 8 on the Pacific Northwest Coast. We will see you then.